I'm singing this song for you. And you know, and I mentioned this, Mr. Payne's funeral was yesterday. Mrs. Payne's husband, who she'd been with for like 32 years. And after the brother did a song in tribute to him, I said, well, you know, that's powerful because singing is like praying double. And what Sue was being with in that song was prayer. And you know, most of you who have been in class or are currently in class, our way of praying is not about separation, it's about oneness. Our way of praying isn't about begging as if there's something we don't have. Our way of praying is to acknowledge all that we have in abundance. And so as she was singing that song, it was clear to me that she had come to an understanding about her true essence. And in coming to that understanding is another way of expressing gratitude through song by absolutely anchoring this truth in a powerful way by using the instrument that is her way of giving. It's a beautiful thing. I've been so many places in my life and time. We all have. Some of us have covered other continents. Some of us have covered many places just inside the city of Chicago, or maybe just inside the United States, or wherever you've gone. There's been many opportunities for you to see a lot of things and to be in different experiences. And in each one of those experiences, there was one common element, and that is you. Whether or not you were in New York or somewhere in the South or wherever it might have been, you were that common denominator that kept showing up. But there was a different you that appeared every time you showed up in a new place. Whether you were in the Allegheny Mountains or whether you were on the shore of California or in the deserts of Las Vegas, every time you showed up, there was a different dimension of you that was activated. And it was your spirit's evolution, it was your soul's way of taking note about how you handled different things that were going on in your life. And your experience is simply the outcome of what you have accepted into your life through the Spirit, the Creator, the source of everything that is. And so as we move into this new theme for October, abundant living, we do so with an absolute goal of knowing something greater about life than we've ever known before, and to embrace all of the life that we have been living in a greater way than we've ever done before, and to notice the abundance of the blessings that we've had all along. So, treasure is one way of thinking of who we are, that we are a treasure, that we are something that is of value, something that is of importance, something sometimes sought after, someone sometimes hidden even from ourselves. And so as we move forward in this exploration, I'm taking you into a consciousness that may allow you to birth something new about you, to know something more magnificent about the I am that you are. And so abundant life begins with a new birth. You know, it was 56 years ago tomorrow when the sun was rotating around, or whatever the journey was, it's coming back into that same place that it was when I was born about 56 years ago. And in this particular journey, this light has been shining in many different directions over many different places, and I've been receiving it in many different degrees in the course of this thing called Earth School. And so as we all are embarking on these Be Earth days, as we are acknowledging these earth suits that we're wearing that are still now serving our spirit in the ways that they do. There's something that is happening at the level of our soul that's greater than anything that's happening in the outer realm of our being. Our temple is an outpicturing many times of our emotions, many times of our feelings, many times of our thoughts, and it may cause us dis-ease at times. It may cause us cramping. It may be some times when we're contracting, and there may be other times when we're releasing, and that's part of the whole ebb and flow that we see in nature as we see the water falling upon the shore and receding. And so there's a dance that we do in this thing called life that is so perfect. But when I think about each moment being a new birth, each moment being a new way of our having a new relationship with God, it becomes something exciting. It's not old and stale. It's something new that is vibrant. Just like that song became vibrant to Sue when she was being with it with her essential self, not the egoic self. When she was being with it at the level of her soul, something new was arising. And so this is what happens to us when we're recognizing our relationship. We have new motivations. We have new ways of relating to one another. And I invite you to continue to seek out those new ways of interacting with each other. As we learn to love abundantly, we are also getting to learn how to live spiritually. And so living spiritually doesn't mean just sitting up there in meditation all the time going, oh. It means more than simply calling out the name of God or the name of Jesus or whatever name that you see of the divine. It simply means more than outwardly expressing the vibration that is going on inside, but it also entails listening. It also entails receiving that information of love. And in receiving this information, we do so through our spiritual practices, and we come into spiritual maturity by relying on our spiritual practices, relying on the work that we do, and relying on the healthy choices that we make. Now, when I say the work that we do, I'm not simply talking about where you clock in and clock out. I'm talking about the work that you do that reveals who you are as a divine being of love. And so your good works become the way that God's face gets around. And so you may just think that God's face just looks like yours because, you know, we think of God in our own image and likeness rather than an image and likeness that is a composite of everything that is. But when you see the presence of God revealing itself, that too is a gift. You know, when your neighbor maybe calls and says, you know, you got a package over here, or maybe when one of your relatives remembered your birthday and called you, or maybe when one of your friends said, you know what, I'd like to take you to lunch, or maybe when you heard a song. All of these were different ways that God has been giving to you that loving energy. And so this is the way that we get to build our faith in God. This is the way that we get to build our faith in spiritual law. Because spiritual law is always simply saying yes. And so this is how we get to practice saying yes to God by, yes, thank you for that package. Yes, thank you for that phone call. Yes, that lunch was enjoyable. Yes, that song was beautiful. And so we get to realize that there is something that is happening, this cause, and there is something that is allowing it, that is the law, and the effects begin to accumulate, and we begin to form different beliefs based on our experiences. And yet, there are ever more causes that are happening. So through our faith in the divine law, we have an opportunity to be transformed, not unlike the butterfly who was willing to let go of that old body. You know, that caterpillar was, you know, hopping along here, you know, making noise there, you know, sucking from this, that, and the other, moving along, content enough. But there was something within this caterpillar all the while that was seeking to fly. Oh, you know that feeling. You have that feeling. There's something within you that's been hopping along, but there's something within you that just wants to fly, and you're like, I don't know if it's time. I don't know if I'm ready. You know, what I know about is this hopping thing and this sucking thing, and I know about stuff that I've been dealing with. That's all familiar to me. But there's an opportunity for me to be more. I know that I am more, but I just can't let go of who I've been in order to embrace who I could be. And so as we continue to cling to that caterpillar stage, as we continue to cling to our old ways of judgment, as we continue to cling to that, we won't learn how to fly. And so I'm inviting you to move forward on a journey that will compel you to fly. You know, transformation comes through faith. And it's the kind of faith that took the caterpillar into a butterfly. One definition of faith is to commit to the power and the guidance of the one you believe in. So if you can commit to the power of God, if you can say, I know that God can do all things, then you are making a commitment, not simply by the words, but the absolute trust in that. And when you trust in God, things become possible. When you trust in God, that which seemed to be impossible becomes something possible. And when you commit to the guidance of God, then you're not simply following what all your people say you should do. You know, well, you know, Mom was waving me across the street yesterday, and there was a big old bus coming, and I was like, I love you, Mom, but I'm going to look at the bus. That's not to say that your parents don't have great guidance, but I know that my God wants me to keep on living. And so I'm trusting that power, and I'm trusting that inner guidance. Because there are going to be people that are pointing you in many different directions, and so you have to rely on your inner truth. So in order to grow, we can't hold on to our old clothes, our old garments. We can't hold on to, no matter how fly it might have been, we can't hold on to it. We can't hold on to those old attitudes, no matter how far it got us. It got us to that point. But something greater is going to take you to an even greater point. You see, the things that it used to be popular, now not so much. Now all those trends come and go. When we focus on the eternal, we got a lot more leverage. So what's been happening through war and other acts of violence is that many people are getting to change their clothes all at the same time. Many people who have fallen in Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, people who have fell in DC, people who have fell in Chicago, people who have fell based on people's acts, not based on people's spirit. Because something happens when fear has its full sway. It's out of control. And when fear is out of control, things start bumping into each other and stuff starts flying around that is normally not flying around, and things start happening that are totally out of the realm of love. And so it gives us an opportunity to return to love. And so sometimes that means returning to love is like going to the funeral for a friend's husband, and you may be there to hold them, or you may be someone who is grieving and someone comes up and hugs you. And so there's this opportunity that even death brings for us to know love. And so when these people leave the earth plane, yeah, they do get to have a new perspective, but we don't have to give up our physical bodies in order to get a new perspective now, do we? We can know heaven right here on earth now, can't we? We certainly know what hell on earth looks like. We know what hell on earth feels like. And we choose to have a different experience. We choose to be in a different place that's other than hell. Yes?
Yes.
I thought so. So we don't have to physically die to get new attitudes. Whereas our bodies are dying daily. We have an opportunity to birth something anew. Our spirits are fresh and alive and vibrant. And so as God transforms a person's desires to be more in conformity with our highest and the best good, it is simply not saying that the desire is something of the Father, but it's saying those kind of what the psychologists call anima desires. You know, that anima desire is like, you know, that tiger who is preparing for, you know, what is going to eat that day. Not just simply at the level of the physical desires, but the desires that are truly of the Father wants us to truly have a life that is abundant, truly have a life that is free, where we are able to really live a life that is comfortable, where we're really able to live a life that is free, and we're not constrained by any thoughts or appearances of lack. We're not constrained by any kinds of perceived limitations. We're freed up to move into a dimension that knows no bounds. We're freed up to know the abundant living that we are here to live. And so as we were listening to the reading this morning, we were getting exposed to the idea that wealth is a state of consciousness. And as a state of consciousness, it knows its oneness with its creator. Now, saying that you mentally understand something and actually being at one with something are two different things. As I was saying to the foundations, this week is the very unification stage of treatment of the affirmative prayer that we do, that absolutely is the power through which prayer becomes realized, answered. And it's not simply the words that we say, but the energy that we know as our own energy that allows us to be clear and available instruments through which God may give to us, through which we may gift of ourselves to others. You know, someone was saying to me yesterday, well, you know, he's a diplomatic one because, you know, I still got negative stuff that I be dealing with. And I'm like, well, somebody's got to be nice. Well, are you saying I'm not nice? No, I'm just saying what you said. You said he's the diplomatic one and you're not. Well, if it's not you, who's it going to be? Because if he's not around, then who's going to be that one who's the bridge? See, bridge is not simply for you to get one place to another. A bridge is that place where you're able to meet another. You know, when the meditative thought for the week was talking about the chrysalis, you know, you've seen that liquid substance that comes out of the caterpillar when it's turning into a butterfly. You know, and the helpful man goes to try to, you know, fix something that's not broken, try to get rid of the very power that is building the wings sometimes stuff comes out of us in our experience that are for us to know our power, to feel our power, to be able to know that there is something within us that is able to fly. And so the meditative thought said that chrysalis is the bridge. And so to understand the bridge between separation and oneness is important. You know, we've got to be able to meet someone somewhere, even though they may be on the other side of our political viewpoint, even though they may be on the other side of our religious stance. We've got to be able to meet them in order to know oneness. When I was first visioning for the community, I was seeing much more of a diversity of people, and I said, well, we'd have, you know, Greek Day and Black Day and Jewish Day and Lithuanian Day and Japanese Day and Chinese Day and all of this. And so the possibility was there innately to create a way of us accepting each other from wherever we might be. And so we have that opportunity even to do that in Chicago. We have the opportunity even to do that in the United States. Because, you know, abundant living is about prosperity and it's about health. And we've certainly been exploring the health over these last couple of weeks. And we're going to continue to explore health another week in the class that Tom is having on tapping this Thursday. But there's other aspects of abundant living to go beyond the body and to go beyond the mind. And we've been getting some abundant information through our classwork that we've been doing, but there's an abundant living that has to do with our emotions and our relationships, not only our material needs, but there's an understanding about abundant life that is about eternal life. And so the stuff that you can't take with you, that's the stuff that you want to make sure is in tip-top shape. Because if it ain't in tip-top shape in the journey, you may have to go through another kind of a transformation in order for you to help get that part of you fit for the next level of your journey. And you want to make sure that it's not a hellified experience, but that it's a heavenly experience. That's what my name means, heavenly. So the good news is one of those aspects that we can learn about the abundant life. Now, for traditional Christians, they call the good life, you know, knowing, you know, the message of Jesus, and they start getting all caught up into the blood and the nails and all of that stuff. But I want to talk to you about the good news that is really the message of Jesus that includes what he said, what he did, not only that he died, but that he resurrected. You see, that's the greatest message, that we die daily to old ideas. Because Jesus was calling for them to let go of those old ideas that they say to you, but I say it doesn't matter that they all had a different opinion about what he thought. It means that we have to die daily to those ideas that are not serving us. We have to die daily to those ideas of persecution. We have to die daily to those ideas that we are the victim. And we have to die daily to those ideas that we have to agree with what everybody else says is true. You don't have to worry about fighting evil. When you focus on good, evil falls away. Don't you know? And so, well, you know, there's so much stuff going on, Brother Celeste, it's hard for me to focus on good. Good comes when you think about the other person being like you. Good comes when you think about the other person wants the same kind of things that you want. Good comes when you think about, oh wow, you know, that mother may not be treating her child the way I would treat my child, but you know what? She's doing the best that she can. Or you know what? That woman did something that seemed to be desperate, but I understand her fear. I wish I could find a way that she would know love so that she wouldn't be so focused on her fear. You know, wow, I think about, my bank account doesn't look the way I want it to look, but I'm so grateful that I had something to eat today. Oh, and I don't have the shiniest and the greatest new model car, but I'm so grateful that I'm able to get from point A to point B. Oh, well, I don't have the job of my dreams, but I'm so grateful that there's a money flow that's going on in my life. Well, I don't exactly live where I'd like to be living, but I'm so grateful that I'm not here living under a cardboard box in the rain. Well, if you start to focus on the good, then that pity party may not be so attractive anymore. That pity party might start to look like some old attitude that you used to have that is no longer serving you, and you already found that out when it got you nowhere. But there are things that are happening right here and right now that we are getting caught up in. There's things that we're getting caught up in when the people that we thought were leaders are acting like spoiled children, and they want to shut down the government. If we start to focus on the fact that, there's people that are not getting paid for the work that they do, then we start getting resentful, and we start thinking, well, that's not fair, and these people are stupid, and we don't realize that these people that are being leaders need healing. They need to know that they are being supported through grace. They need to know that there's more than one way to look at things. And when we continue to give away our power and say that, well, we elected them, they should be doing that. And after all, we live in a democracy. Did you forget that democracy means people power? And so if you decide that someone else has the power and you don't, then that is an old attitude that has not been serving you, because now you are paying your taxes to people who are not serving you at all. So now you have an opportunity to say, what must I do? What can I give of myself? What is it that I can know? Can I see the good in these people? Obviously, they were smart enough to get elected. What kind of light can I send in that direction so that they might be able to know that all is truly well? What can I do within my own community so that I know that I am not simply at the whim of somebody else, somewhere else? What is it that I can know energetically that I can offer to the world? Is there money that I can give to my church? Is there money that I can give to some community program that's going on inside of the city of Chicago? Is there something that I can give of myself? What is my talent that I have to offer? What is it that I do so well that others might be able to benefit from? We have to start to think that the reasons that we've been gifted with these marvelous talents of being able to play the piano or sing or whatever it might be is to be in service to love, to be in service to a greater idea of truth. And so, if you are thinking about fighting evil, you might want to instead focus on the good so that the evil falls away. You know how good it feels when you hear a song that just speaks to your heart. Any kind of hardness seems to fall away. And so when you see something that seems to be unjust, if you're an October baby like us, then you might really find an issue with the things that are not looking to be fair. There's something about the status quo that may not sit right. That uncomfortability is not simply for the purpose of you being uncomfortable. It means something has to shift. And so when the caterpillar starts shifting around and producing this chrysalis that comes out, that means you have to move in a different way. You have to stretch yourself in a greater way. You have to move in a different direction that brings you out of this uncomfortability into a freedom that will allow you to fly. You have to understand that anything that seems to be And abuse is simply a misuse of the law. And so a misuse of the law is simply either not accepting your good or inviting in an energy that is not an energy of love. Because perfect love does cast out all fear. You have to know that we are all responsible for everything that is happening. You know, Plato said he doesn't know what justice is, but he knows what justice is not. Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so when you understand that there's things that are happening that may seem to be out of sync, and somehow we've been justifying it because everybody's been going along. Well, the woman that was shot up by all of those police officers, I had an issue with that. I said so on Facebook. Since when does driving while crazy make you a target for police officers to shoot you to death? Well, those police officers were right. They were saying, you know, well, they didn't know this woman was dangerous. She was hitting things. So it's like, is anybody thinking about the well-being of this woman? Because what's happening is these officers are not now functioning as professionals. They're now functioning as fearmongers. And this is how we do. And then we get to say to each other, that's right, they did the right thing. She could have hurt. And all they're talking from is a place of fear. They're not talking from a place of possibility. They're not thinking from a place of love. And so, being trained professionals, they have to keep their skills up. They have to make sure that they can fire from distances. They have to make sure that their firing is accurate. They have to make sure that what they do is for the best safety of everyone. And so, when they decided to make those choices, Olu, they were making those choices because they didn't understand what was possible, because fear had already blocked a lot of their view so that all that they could see was a limited view. And when all we can see is a limited view, we act desperately. And when all that we can see is our own individual pain, oh, well, my foot hurts. Oh, well, my leg hurts. Oh, you know, I'm experiencing something awful. Are you thinking about the breath of God that is breathing you? Are you allowing it to move through you? Are you seeing that life energy go into your foot? Are you seeing that life energy going into your leg? Are you absolutely accepting that some good is possible? You see, when those officers decided to take this woman out, they couldn't see any good. They couldn't see that maybe they could shoot up the tires, stop the car from being a weapon. You know, the ammunition is now such that it is as great as that is used in war. So they can use the power of the distance to be able to stop things, and we can use the power of our foresight to be able to stop things that seem to be limiting us in some way. You see, we have to understand that every life is precious. We have to understand that, or otherwise we would just be a bunch of renegades who are running about, flailing about in fear, creating more mayhem, which was already the circumstance that this woman was obviously in. She was already functioning from a place of fear, so more fear was not the solution. Einstein says you cannot solve the problem at the level of the problem. You have to solve the problem at the level of solution. So when you're able to think beyond what everybody else is saying, like Barbara Lee was the only congresswoman in the whole Congress from California who said, don't go to Afghanistan. No, that's not my vote. I do not vote in favor of this war. So now, as the soldiers come back maimed, if they come back, traumatized, traumatizing their families. This continues to be like a virus that is spreading, and so this fear gets to spread, and so we have an opportunity to say, how can I be loved today? How can I reveal love today? How can I show that love is the activity of my spirit through me? And so if we're going to dance, let's dance in a way that brings joy to our hearts and to the hearts of others. If we're going to sing, let's sing in the way that brings others to an understanding of the wonderful power within them to transform through love. Whatever it is that you do, let it be in service to love, because you are the treasure. You are the gift. And the song that you sing is the way that you show up as love. If you perceive that you don't have a talent, maybe you want to be a contributor to someone who is. Maybe you want to be a contributor to a community like this, who gives to people who go to areas where there's been some kind of trauma happening. You know, maybe you want to know that this community gives to places like Inglewood, or places like Missouri after a storm, or places like the East Coast after a storm, or to Colorado after a mass shooting. Maybe you need to know that by your givingness that you are participating in this idea of oneness in a way that goes far beyond your capacity to simply say, oh, poor so-and-so. Isn't that too bad what happened to so-and-so? Isn't that awful what happened over there? Isn't that terrible that all those people lost blank? No, you get to participate in the healing process. You get to participate in the revealing of the kingdom right here on earth. You're not here to poor-mouth people. Say, oh, poor so-and-so, that's a shame. That's not your God self happening. That's your fear self happening, because you're going, there but for the grace of God goes me. And it's not about just you. It is about you. But you're part of a wholeness, and that wholeness is everything. It's every tree, it's every flower, every choice that we make to waste is a choice of us saying we're disregarding that wonderful giving nature of God. Every time we waste food, or we waste paper, or we waste something that was once living and is now here to nurture us or support us in some way, we're like spitting in God's face saying, I don't appreciate that. Not consciously, but because everybody else is doing it, you think it's okay. And so you're like that limbling that jumps off the roof with all the other limblings. And to what good? To create a deathly experience that tells others, don't follow somebody who's leading you off a cliff where you don't want to go. Do you want to be that sacrifice in that way? Because your life is always going to be made sacred no matter what you do. But if you can do so consciously, if you can give in a way that is consciously revealing that which is within you that is so beautiful and so perfect and is so unique to you, then you're fulfilling God's purpose as your life. You don't have to keep thinking that God don't know what my purpose is. Just listen. Listen to the Spirit of God within you, and it will lead you and guide you and direct you into the spirit of who it is. It will lead you into love. It will lead you into peace. It will lead you into joy. It will lead you into gentleness, into goodness, into faith. It will lead you to the kingdom. And in this, everything will be added unto you. So know that the song that you sing for yourself is a beautiful song that the world is awaiting. Know that even though you may have experienced the broken self, even though you might have been wounded, even though there was moments when you felt disconnected, even though there were times when you lost yourself, even when you came to your awakening of who you are as divine. All of those wonderful ways are how we see ourselves as never being broken. even the covered self, that is the self that's organized in a way that conceals your essence. All of these aspects are parts of you and your butterfly experience, because the transformed self evolves out of the brokenness and integrates all of this information and emerges beyond those old garments, beyond those old attitudes. So I invite you to sing the song for you, to sing the song for me, to sing the song for we, as we take all of our shared experiences and all of our individual challenges to create a world that works for everyone. And we're living life abundantly. That's why we're here. Namaste. Namaste. Let's move now into prayer.